I stood there frozen in my own living room while Brandon stared at the floor and Kayla stretched out on the very couch I paid for like she owned the place. In my closet hung the soft rose-colored mother-of-the-groom dress I'd never get to wear. $200 wasted. New heels still in the box. All because I thought I'd be smiling in my son's wedding photos. Turns out I wasn't even invited to breathe the same air as the cake. I had a $1,000 check already written for them as a wedding gift. I had scrubbed this house top to bottom waiting for them to come celebrate with me. I had called my sister Sue in Columbus bragging about how beautiful the day was going to be. In one sentence, Kayla burned it all to the ground. Brandon finally mumbled, "It was just a small thing, Mom. Only us and the witnesses." Liar. I'd already seen the pictures on Instagram. Kayla's parents grinning ear to ear. Her brothers popping champagne. The gorgeous white dress I helped pay for with the $800 personal expenses I sent last month. They just didn't want me there. Exactly 7 days later my phone rang. Same Kayla, but the voice was completely different. Shaky, desperate. "Pat, the rent's 2 weeks late. The landlord's threatening eviction. You forgot the transfer." I let the silence stretch. Then I said, calm as Sunday morning, "Kayla, I thought I made myself clear. I only help special people." Dead silence. I swear I could hear her heart drop. She started stammering. "But we've always been special to you. You're like a second mom." I almost laughed. That sugary voice only came out when the bank account was getting low. For 3 years I had lived on beans and rice so they could eat steak. I had cancelled vacations, missed birthdays with friends, skipped my own doctor visits. Anything to keep them comfortable. And the one day that actually mattered, I wasn't special enough. That night I sat on my bed and did the math. Rent. $18,000. Groceries. $7,200. Furniture, gifts, car repairs, emergencies. It came to $33,400. $33,400 of my late husband Bob's life insurance and my retirement. Gone. Also my son could treat me like a walking ATM that talks too much. I didn't cry sad tears that night. I cried angry tears. Furious tears. Tears that had been locked up for years. The next morning I looked in the mirror and saw someone new staring back. Someone who was done being invisible. I made coffee like I had every day for 40 years. But for the first time I wasn't wondering if Brandon had slept well. For the first time, Patricia Morrison was priority number 1. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I used to count pennies for their bills, and added everything up again just to feel the weight of it. Then I walked to Chase Bank on Pearl Road. Mr. Greg Harlan, the branch manager, saw me coming and waved like always. "Mrs. Morrison, everything okay?" "Better than okay," I told him. "Cancel every automatic transfer. Today." He looked shocked. Those transfers had been as regular as the sunrise for 36 months. While he processed the paperwork, my phone exploded. "Brandon, Kayla, Brandon again." I turned it off and walked out 10 pounds lighter. That afternoon I took a walk just because I felt like it. Past the park where I used to push Brandon on the swings. I smiled remembering the little boy who called me the best mom in the world. Somewhere along the line that little boy decided love had a price tag, and I had been paying it. When I got home, 3 cars were parked in my driveway. One I didn't recognize. Through the window I could see movement inside my house. They still had keys. I took the deepest breath of my life, opened the door, and stepped into the fight I should have started years ago. Brandon was slumped on my couch. Kayla was pacing like a caged tiger. And some gray-suited stranger was rifling through my personal papers on my dining room table. "What is going on in my house?" I asked, louder than I knew I could be. Kayla spun around. "Pat, thank God. We're worried about you. This is attorney Rick Donovan. He's here to help." "Help, but..." Rick Donovan stood up with a shark smile and offered his hand. "Mrs. Morrison, your children are concerned about your mental health." Mental health. That's when I understood. They weren't here to apologize. They were here to have me declared incompetent and take every penny I had left. 1344. Kayla tried the fake tears. At your age, confusion is normal, Pat. I looked her dead in the eye. The only thing I'm confused about is why I ever thought you deserved my money or my love. The room went completely still. The same Kayla who told me I wasn't special enough for their wedding was now talking to me like I was 1 foot in a nursing home. I am not confused, I said, and my voice cut through that room like a knife. I'm clearer than I've been in decades. And the 3 of you are leaving my house. Right now. Attorney Rick Donovan gave that fake soothing lawyer smile. Mrs. Morrison, your children have rights if they truly believe your judgment is slipping. We've documented some very concerning recent behaviors. Concerning behaviors? I let out a laugh that was half snarl. Like deciding my own money belongs to me? Like refusing to bankroll 2 grown adults who treat me like garbage? That kind of concerning. Kayla shot up from the couch like I'd slapped her. We never treated you like garbage. Your family. Everything you have is going to be ours one day anyway. We're just moving the timeline up a little. There it was. Holy. Honest. In their heads I was already dead. They were just here to pick the meat off the bones early. I pointed at the door. Out. All 3 of you. Brandon did that little kid pout he's used since he was 6. Mom, we can't just leave. We have bills. Rent. The car note you co-signed. The credit card. Who says I can't cut you off? My voice finally cracked like thunder. For years I paid rent on an apartment that never had a welcome mat for me. I stocked a fridge in a home I wasn't invited to. I funded a life that made it crystal clear I wasn't part of it. Donovan slid a thick folder across my table. We've prepared a simple power of attorney, Mrs. Morrison. Just until you're feeling better. I picked it up, didn't even open it, and drop-kicked it straight into the trash can. The only power anyone's getting today is the power to walk out my front door. Kayla burst into tears. Angry tears, the kind that come when the gravy train derails. You can't do this to us, Pat. We bought stuff. We made plans based on you. Exactly, I fired back. Plans based on my bank account. Not my company. Not my love. My bank account. And now I'm suddenly a senile old lady who needs guardians. Get out. Brandon tried to step closer with that fake remorse voice. Mom, we messed up. The wedding thing. Kayla was stressed. We can fix this if you just act reasonable again. Reasonable. That word tasted like poison. Reasonable is me pretending it doesn't rip my heart out that my only child got married without me. Reasonable is me smiling while I write another check. I'm done being reasonable. Donovan snapped his briefcase shut. This isn't over, Mrs. Morrison. If a judge believes you're irrational, guardianship can be court-ordered. I met his eyes dead level. Then tell the judge to bring a calculator. Because I've got 40 years of perfect financial records, a dead husband I buried alone, a son I raised alone, and $33,400 reasons why I'm the sanest person in this room. Kayla's tears dried up real fast. She glared at me with pure ice. This isn't the end, Pat. We have lawyers too. Fantastic, I said. Pay them with your own money for once. They shuffled out like kids who just got grounded for life. At the door, Brandon turned back, voice low and threatening. You're going to die alone, Mom. When you're sick and need help, nobody's going to be there. I looked at my only son and felt the last string snap. Brandon, I've been alone for years. The difference is now it's my choice. I shut the door, locked it, and for the first time in forever the house was perfectly, beautifully quiet. That night I didn't sleep, I planned. Like a general before battle. 6 a.m. sharp I was dressed and out the door. First stop, Attorney Tom Brennan's office in Westlake. The man who wrote my late husband Bob's will. The second he heard what happened he leaned back and said, Pat, what they tried yesterday. That's elder financial abuse. Federal crime. And breaking into your house to snoop through your papers. That's trespassing. For the first time in weeks, I felt the ground solid under my feet. 3 hours later we had a battle plan. Change every lock on the house. Full security camera system. New bank, new accounts, nobody else's name on them. New will ironclad. Live the life I put on hold for 3 miserable years. Next stop, Russo's Hardware on Pearl Road. Mike Russo, the owner, saw me walk in and grinned. Another emergency for Brandon. Not today, Mike. Today it's an emergency for Pat Morrison. I bought the strongest deadbolts they had. Then his son Connor quoted me on a full 8-camera system with police alert. Money was no object. While Connor wrote it up, my phone rang. Unknown number. Kayla, calling from somebody else's phone because I'd blocked hers. Pat, please, let's talk like adults. We want to make the wedding thing up to you. How about a nice celebration dinner at your place? Cut straight to it. How much do you owe in rent right now? Dead silence, then a whisper. 2 months, $1,000. But it's not just about money, Pat, we miss why. Do you miss me, Kayla, or my checking account? She actually answered. Both. Finally, honesty. I told her, slow and clear, exactly what she'd done to me for 3 years. Then I said the words I'd practiced in my head all night. You decided I wasn't special enough for your wedding day. Now I've decided you're not special enough for my money. We're even. Blick. I turned the phone off and treated myself to the first full salon day in over a year. Jessica, my stylist, almost cried when I walked in. Pat. We thought you forgot we existed. No, honey. I just forgot I existed. Cut, color, mani-pedi, the works. When she spun the chair around, I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror. She looked alive. Walking up my driveway, I saw an older lady sitting on my porch steps. Mrs. Morrison. I'm Bev Thompson next door. Heard shouting yesterday, got worried. You okay? A total stranger cared more than my own flesh and blood. I invited her in, made coffee, and told her everything. When I finished, Bev's eyes were wet. Pat, she said, squeezing my hand, you just did the bravest thing I've ever heard. And trust me, you're only getting started. Let me know when you want the next chunk. Locks changed, cameras up, the restraining order, the courtroom showdown, and Pat finally sipping wine on the Amalfi Coast with zero guilt. This version is built to keep viewers glued to the screen. Bev put her coffee down and looked me straight in the eye. 5 years ago I was exactly where you are, Pat. My own daughter had me convinced that if the checks stopped, the love would stop too. I was terrified to say no. What changed? I changed. I shut the wallet. For 6 months it was H**. She screamed, cried, threatened never to speak to me again. Then one day she called just to say she was sorry. Real tears, no $signs attached. Today we actually have a relationship. That little story lit something inside me. Oh. Do you think Brandon and Kayla will ever get it? Bev shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. But that's not your job anymore, Pat. Your job is to live. That night I slept like a baby for the first time in 3 years. No panic about whether they had grocery money. Number 2 a.m. texts begging for rent. Just peace. 8 o'clock sharp the next morning, Connor Russo and his dad Mike showed up with toolboxes and ladders. While they drilled and wired, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Unknown numbers, burner phones, Kayla still hunting for a way in. I smiled and hit decline every single time. Connor tested the last camera. Mrs. Morrison, you'll be able to see your front door from anywhere in the world. And if anyone so much as breathes on your property without permission, Strongsville PD gets an automatic call. I laughed at the irony. I now had Fort Knox protection. From my own son. While they finished up, I did something I hadn't done in forever. Called my sister Sue in Columbus. Pat. Is the world ending? She joked. We hadn't talked in months because every conversation was me bragging about how much I helped Brandon. Sue, sit down. I've got a story that'll make your blood boil. I told her everything. When I finished there was dead silence then. Thank the Lord you finally woke up. Every family cookout Brandon talked about you like you were his personal sponsor. Mom paid for this, Mom bought that. Never once. I love my mom. And Kayla. Always. When Pat's gone we're remodeling the house. Past tense. Like you were already in the ground. It hurt like a punch, but it was the truth I needed to hear. I was still sitting there reeling when the new cameras pinged. Bev on my porch holding 2 mugs of fresh coffee. Figured you could use a friend today. We sat in my living room and she laid it out like a textbook. Chapter 1. Make Mom Feel Needed. Chapter 2. Invent Endless Emergencies. Chapter 3. When she pushes back, call her crazy. We laughed until we cried. Bitter, freeing tears. That afternoon I finally did what I'd been putting off for years. Drove to Strongsville Cemetery to see Bob. His stone was overgrown. I hadn't been here in months because someone always needed me. I knelt down, pulled the weeds, and talked out loud. Bob, I lost myself trying to be everything to our boy. I thought if I gave enough money he'd love me the way you did. Turns out I was just renting his affection. But I'm done renting. I'm taking my life back, honey. The breeze felt like an answer. When I got home, 3 cars were parked out front again. Brandon, Kayla, and 2 strangers looking angry and determined. I didn't even pull into the driveway. I called attorney Tom Brennan. They're back, with reinforcements. Stay in the car, Pat. Police are 2 minutes out. Restraining order was granted this morning. Minutes later 2 Strongsville cruisers rolled up. I watched Brandon wave his arms, Kayla fake crying into a tissue. An officer walked over to my window. Ma'am, you're safe to go inside. They've been served. They come back, they get arrested. As I stepped out, Brandon yelled across the lawn. This is insane, Mom. You can't call the cops on your own family. Family doesn't try to steal your house while you're still breathing, Brandon. Kayla screamed. You still owe us. You co-signed everything. Tom Brennan never even raised his voice. Any further contact goes through my office. And before you threaten collections, remember we have 3 years of voluntary payments documented. Try it in court. See who the judge believes. They peeled out, tires squealing. I walked into my house, shut the door, and for the first time in my life felt completely, unapologetically free. I'm not saying a word until my lawyer gets here, I told the social worker. Ms. Lauren Brooks from Senior Services opened her mouth to argue, but I was already dialing. Tom Brennan walked in 19 minutes later looking like thunder. Ms. Brooks, he said, voice ice cold after checking her badge. Unless you've got a court order, this visit just became harassment. We received concerned reports. From the same concerned son and daughter-in-law who tried to trick her into signing over power of attorney. The same ones who broke in here and went through her private papers while she was gone. Those concerned family members. Tom dropped a fat folder on my coffee table. 33,400 reasons right here why the only people who need investigating are the ones bleeding a 71-year-old widow dry. Ms. Brooks flipped through the bank statements, the texts, the Instagram wedding photos I wasn't in. Her face went from confident to pale. Mrs. Morrison. Can you explain why you suddenly cut off financial support to your son? Because I finally realized I wasn't his mother. I was his credit card with wrinkles. My job was to raise him to 18, not finance him to 35. Helping grown adults is a choice. I chose me. Tom leaned in. Tell me, Ms. Brooks, would you call it normal for a healthy 35-year-old man to be unable to pay rent without his mother's social security check? She had no answer. 10 minutes later she was packing up. Case closed. No signs of impairment or risk. Door shut. Silence. Tom turned to me. Pat, they're desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. They just filed for emergency guardianship in Cuyahoga County Court. My stomach dropped through the floor. They're trying to have me declared incompetent so they can legally rob me. Exactly. It's expensive and hard to win. But if they find one sympathetic judge and one shady doctor, they could pull it off. That night I called Sue in Columbus. When I finished telling her, she was quiet for a long time. Pat, they're burning every bridge, spending money they don't have, destroying their reputations. All for your savings. That's not love. That's addiction. She was right. And knowing the truth finally killed the last flicker of guilt. The next evening Bev showed up with reinforcements. Jessica from the salon, Angela, Sophia, and 80-year-old Ellie Walsh, garden club warriors who'd all fought the same war. We sat in my living room trading battle stories like veterans. Ellie raised her coffee cup. "Sweetheart, if you have to pay for love, it was never love. It was rent." I laughed so hard I cried. Best tears I'd cried in years. A month later I was living my best life. Painting again, lunches with the girls, planning a trip to Italy I'd postponed for 3 decades. Then on a random Thursday, Tom pulled into my driveway looking like he was about to deliver terrible news. He was. Brandon and Kayla just filed the full incompetence lawsuit. They want the judge to appoint Brandon as your legal guardian. If they win, every dime you have is his. I felt the room spin. What evidence could they possibly have? Forged doctor bills, a pharmacist who got tricked, a grumpy neighbor, and a psychiatrist who claims you refused evaluation, which they're spinning as proof you're hiding dementia. We went straight to the pharmacy. Dave Larson, the pharmacist, turned beet red when he saw me. "Mrs. Morrison," Kayla came in crying, "said you were forgetting your meds. She had me sign something saying your purchases were irregular. I thought I was helping with insurance." He wrote a new statement on the spot. Next stop. Grumpy Mr. Gary Peterson across the street. He answered the door sneering. "Yeah, I signed it. You've got cameras like you're the president, strangers in and out, screaming at your own kid. You're nuts." I smiled sweetly. "Those cameras are there because my kid broke into my house. Those strangers are friends. And the screaming. That was me telling him to get a job." He slammed the door. Some people can't be saved. The next day I sat for 2 hours with Dr. Jennifer Patel, court-recognized forensic psychiatrist. Memory tests, logic puzzles, financial questions. She put me through the ringer. When we finished, she closed her notebook and smiled. "Mrs. Morrison, your cognition is sharper than most 40-year-olds I see. You are emphatically competent. This case is textbook elder financial exploitation." I walked out with a 12-page report that basically called Brandon and Kayla predators in polite medical language. That night Bev rallied the entire garden club to my house. 8 furious silver-haired women armed with casseroles and righteous anger. When I told them about the lawsuit, the room erupted. Jessica slammed her fist on the table. "We are all showing up to that courtroom. Let's see the judge ignore 20 senior citizens who've got your back." I looked around at these women who barely knew me a month ago and realized something. I wasn't alone anymore. I was protected. And I was ready for war. Angela slammed her hand on my kitchen table. "We're all testifying, Pat. We've watched you bloom these past weeks. You're sharper than half the people I cut hair for." Ellie Walsh, 80 years young, grabbed both my hands with surprising strength. Child-greedy kids have been trying to lock up their parents since the day money was invented. The difference? You've got receipts, a shark for a lawyer, and a whole squad of silver-haired warriors who've got your back. I looked around that table at 8 women who owed me nothing, and realized I finally had a real family. That night I cried the last tears I'd ever cry over Brandon. Not sad tears. Funeral tears. I buried the son I thought I had, the dream of Sunday dinners and grandbabies on my lap. But when the crying stopped, something steel-hard rose up in its place. They wanted a war. Fine. I was done playing nice. 3 weeks later, trial day. I put on my sharpest black suit, looked in the mirror, and saw a woman who was finally dangerous. To the right people. Tom Brennan picked me up at 7. "Remember, Pat, they have to prove you're crazy. We just have to prove you're not." And Judge Deborah Harris eats elder abuse cases for breakfast. Cuyahoga County Justice Center. Brandon in a cheap new suit that still had the tags tucked in the collar. Kayla in funeral black like someone had died. They weren't wrong. Whatever was left of family was about to flatline. Their lawyer opened with the performance of the century. "Your Honor, poor Mrs. Morrison has fallen under the influence of predatory neighbors and greedy attorneys. She's paranoid. Look at the cameras. She's isolated herself from the very family who loves her. Then came the parade of lies. Kayla on the stand, fake tears on demand. Pat's always been my second mom. Seeing her decline breaks my heart. Tom's cross-examination was surgical. Name one phone call in the last 3 years that didn't end with you asking for money. Silence. Explain, telling her only special people were invited to your wedding. Her face went purple. Brandon took the stand next. My own son swearing I was losing my mind. Tom hit him with the $33,400 question. Brandon mumbled, looked at his shoes, and basically melted. Grumpy Mr. Peterson claimed I was acting crazy. Tom made him admit he'd never once spoken to me, just watched from across the street like a nosy owl. Then it was our turn. Pharmacist Dave Larson explained how Kayla tricked him. Dr. Jennifer Patel dropped her 12-page report like a bomb. Mrs. Morrison's cognition is exceptional. Mike Russo, Connor, Bev. Then the entire Garden Club cavalry took the stand, one after another, testifying that Pat Morrison was the sanest, strongest woman they'd ever met. Finally me. I walked to that witness box like I owned the courthouse. Tom asked the question everyone was waiting for. Pat, why did you finally stop paying their bills? I looked straight at the judge. No shaking, no tears. Because I finally figured out the price tag they had on my love. My money was always welcome. I never was. I'm 71 years old, Your Honor. I raised my son alone after his father died. I paid for everything he needed until he was grown. Supporting him at 35 is not my duty. It's my choice. And I choose me. The courtroom was dead quiet. Their lawyer tried to rattle me on cross. He failed. Every question I answered like I'd been rehearsing my whole life. Judge Harris came back after 2 hours that felt like 2 lifetimes. In all my years on this bench, rarely have I seen a case where the evidence of financial exploitation is this clear. Mrs. Patricia Morrison is in full possession of her mental faculties. The petition for guardianship is denied with prejudice. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the prosecutor's office for possible criminal elder abuse charges. Court is adjourned. I won. I didn't just win the case. I won my life back. Outside on the courthouse steps, Kayla shot me a look of pure venom. Brandon opened his mouth like he might say something, then thought better of it and walked away forever. That night my living room was packed wall to wall with the Garden Club army, champagne, and the loudest laughter Strongsville had ever heard. Ellie raised her glass. To Pat Morrison, who didn't just beat them, she buried them. 3 months later I sold the house on Webster Road, donated half the proceeds to an elder abuse nonprofit, and bought a gorgeous condo downtown Cleveland overlooking Lake Erie. I spent the rest on the life I'd waited 71 years for. 2 months painting my way through Tuscany and the Amalfi Coast. Art classes every Tuesday. Volunteering at the senior center. Helping other women spot the red flags I missed. I never heard from Brandon or Kayla again. Word is they're crammed into a 1-bedroom in Parma, and Kayla finally got her first real job. Maybe rock bottom will teach them what my love never could. Some nights I sit on my new balcony, city lights sparkling on votes the lake, wine in my hand, and I smile at the stars. The old Pat, the one who thought love had a monthly fee, is gone. In her place stands a woman who finally knows her worth can't be measured in dollars, and my name is Patricia Morrison. I'm 72 years old, and the most important person I will ever take care of is me. If this story fired you up, smash that like button, drop a comment. What would you have done the day they said you weren't special? Tell me where you're watching from, and subscribe because I've got 100 more real-life revenge and redemption stories just like this one coming your way. This is Philo Stories, signing off with love. See you in the next one.